Yelena Belova is sitting on top of a skyscraper. We hear her voice saying that something is wrong with her, an emptiness she once thought began when her sister died. Now, she believes the void is bigger than that, or maybe she's just bored. She jumps off the tall building and parachutes down, landing on a lower level. Quickly hiding behind a wall, she ambushes the guard who comes to investigate the abandoned parachute. She gains the upper hand, leaving him unconscious on the floor, and efficiently fights through the hallway, neutralizing a row of security guards. She is saying that she feels unsatisfied with throwing herself into work. She needs a purpose. We see that she's speaking to a tied-up man. She asks him how she's going to get in there, pointing at a screen that displays another area. She moves through the lab and takes out a glass capsule, saying the assignment didn't clarify how to destroy the evidence, and declares that it's going to get messy. She is halted by a man that comes in, pointing a gun at her. She greets him calmly and replies that the glass she holds belongs to the OX group in response to his inquiry of whether she was sent by Valentina. She advances towards him as he tries to give her excuses about how he has made a breakthrough in the experiment, and she responds that he can blame the government for not understanding. She tells him that she doesn't enjoy going to different places doing the same job either. She closes in, and they struggle, and he fires at her as she dives for cover. She jumps up on his shoulder and asks him if he has any last words, and he pulls out a sharp object and stabs her leg. She quickly kills him and voices her disappointment that she needed his face, looking at a scanner next to her. She walks calmly down the street, with the crowd in chaos over the explosion in the building she just left. She says the mission is complete and inquires about the next one. In Washington, D.C., a team of reporters are asking Congressman Bucky Barnes for his comments on a hearing. He replies that although he isn't in the impeachment committee, the rumors of wrongdoing are very concerning and that they will get to the bottom of everything. Bucky enters the hearing and takes a seat. The court announces that an article of impeachment is brought against her, and when they vote in favor, she'll be removed from her position. She states her name for the record, Valentina Allegra de Fontaine. She humorously corrects Congressman Gary when he mispronounces her name, then confirms that she's currently working as the director of the CIA. He continues noting that she's also the chairwoman of the OX group, and she replies that after her promotion, she has a role strictly in a strategic guidance capacity. The man continues that following this strategic guidance, the OX group maintains significant holdings in unregulated labs in foreign countries and rumored human experimentation. He says all that is done illegally in pursuit of creating her own superhumans. She is granted permission to speak and says that she doesn't have time to entertain such notions since there are many countries right now with rogue technologies, and reminds them that their last president transformed into a red superhuman monster that nearly destroyed the city. She rises from her seat as she states that the Avengers aren't going to walk through the door and that they have no reliable heroes. She explains that it is up to her and the government to shield its citizens. She turns to address the court, asserting that her actions as CIA director and at the OX group have been with that goal in mind. Sitting back down, she rejects the impeachment article, confident they'll find nothing to implicate her. The congressman asks if she minds the committee continuing their investigation. She confirms she doesn't. Valentina is walking with her assistant, Mel, and cursing as she orders her to remove anything that could lead to impeachment or federal charges. She asks about all the shadow operatives out in the field and asks if all the loose ends have been tied up. Mel briefs her on one operative blowing up an entire laboratory, but she dismisses that, asking if the new assignments were sent out. Mel confirms that all but one have checked in, prompting Valentina to ask where she is. Alexei lounges on his couch, watching TV when the doorbell rings incessantly. He tells them to leave it at the door. When it goes quiet, he mutters Yelena's name and rushes to put his dirty dishes in the sink and brush his teeth before answering. He greets her at the door, and she greets him back. He tells her he was on a highly classified call. They share a drink, and he remarks that it's been a year since they last saw each other. She asks if he's been busy with work, and he confirms that he has. She then asks if he feels fulfilled, and he replies that he does. He asks why she's here, and she tells him she wants to talk about Valentina. He assumes she wants advice on her work, but she surprises him by saying she plans to quit. Shocked, he says he'd kill to work for Valentina, but she reminds him he'd just claimed to be fulfilled. He admits he lied, gesturing to the messy room, and says he's miserable. He asks her what's wrong, and she admits she's been wondering about the point of it all. He replies, money and everything it can buy. When she reacts upset, he explains how it was when he was serving his country, saying there is no higher calling. He adds that her sister understood that, and maybe she should follow in her footsteps. Yelena leaves his house and calls Valentina, asking for a new assignment. Something more public-facing, as this isn't working for her anymore. Valentina promises that if she manages to complete this assignment for Ox, she'll get what she wants. Yelena agrees. Valentina gives her a brief on a warehouse facility housing OX Group's most sensitive assets. Intel has surfaced about a rogue operative that is trying to steal from her. Valentina tells her to go into the facility, determine what she's after, and kill her on sight. Yelena hides outside and follows Taskmaster into the facility, weapon drawn. She heads up in the elevator and steps out onto a landing. Finding some files on a desk, she takes them just as Walker shoots at her. She dodges and returns fire, which he deflects with his shield. They fight hand to hand, and she wonders aloud what is happening. Yelena tells him that he's not even her target, and he replies that she is his. He throws her across the room and is advancing towards her when Taskmaster hits him from the side, throwing him across the room. Taskmaster retracts her mask to tell Yelena that she's not her target and starts to fight with Walker. He throws Taskmaster across the room just as the trio are joined by Ghost. Walker gets into a fighting stance as Ghost moves past him, appearing in front of Taskmaster and attacking her. They fight hand to hand with Ghost getting the upper hand as Yelena shoots an electric wave that Walker deflects. Yelena attacks Ghost and is thrown off. Ghost advances on Walker and they exchange fire. All of them start fighting each other in a battle that appears well matched. Yelena throws a knife at Walker, who dodges, and Ghost snatches it from the air, bouncing it off a surface, and Walker catches it blade first, just inches from his face. Walker holds the knife inches from Yelena's face, her arms crossed in defense, electric shocks running through them. Taskmaster throws Ghost across the room and walks towards the others when she's shot in the head by Ghost, who appears from behind. Walker and Yelena separate, and the trio stand with their guns pointed at each other as they hear the sound of a man retching. The man comes into view and asks if the person is really dead. Seeing their weapons drawn, he raises his hands in the air and introduces himself as Bob. Just as he turns to run, the gate slams shut, followed by the other 3 gates. Congressman Gary approaches Valentina at a company party and tells her that the show won't fool anyone. She retorts that he's only afraid since his investigations of her office came up clean. He responds that it's as if someone did a cleanup. She counters that the impeachment won't stand without proof and warns him he's on borrowed time. They pose for a photograph and then go their separate ways. At the party, Mel is approached by Bucky. She tells him she knows who he is. He hands her his card and tells her to contact him if she wants to share any information that could be evidence. The group in the facility asks Bob who sent him, and he replies that no one did. Yelena refutes Walker's claim that she's stealing, then has a realization and lowers her weapon. She tells them that they've all been working for Valentina in some capacity, and while the facility is full of evidence, so are they. She wants them gone. Ghost agrees with her assessment. U.S. agent is skeptical, pointing out a flaw in her theory and citing their past stats, positioning himself as the most important, the one supposed to bring everyone in. Ghost and Yelena share a laugh over that, and he insists he's not leaving without finishing the job. U.S. agent asks Bob how he got there, and Bob responds that he doesn't know. Ghost is about to go through the closed gates when she's pushed back, and a piercing noise rings in all their ears. Bucky talks to Gary in an alcove at the party, telling him he has a plan and that the assistant is on the fence. Gary replies that they don't need to go rogue, they can find a way and let the justice system handle the rest. Bucky doesn't seem convinced, but Gary says they're preparing something for the next hearing and walks away. Valentina tells Mel to torch it after she confirms that all of the operatives are present and the vault is sealed shut. When Mel hesitates, asking if she's sure, Valentina grabs the device and gives the signal herself. Ghost is collecting weapons from Taskmaster, and Yelena tells her to show some respect. Walker grabs one as well, saying she would want him to have it. Suddenly, red lights flash in the room, and they realize they only have 2 minutes to exit the vault before it's incinerated. They find a power source and destroy it so that Ghost passes through, and they wait with bated breath as the seconds tick down until the door is finally blown open. Yelena is thrown to the ground and experiences a flashback. She sees her younger self luring another girl, who is then shot. She turns to find Bob standing beside her and regains consciousness. She asks if he's okay, just as Ghost re-enters the room. In the car, Mel asks Valentina if she thinks her guests at the facility could have united against her. Valentina denies it vehemently, insisting she couldn't imagine a worse group trying to work together. Mel shows her security footage of them cooperating to open the doors, and Valentina is visibly confused by Bob's presence, clearly unaware of who he is. She demands to know how the man got in there and orders Mel to notify Holt to assemble a full strike team to be called in to deal with the problem. As they step out of the car, Alexei, who had been driving, has overheard everything. Walker says everyone has a reason for being there except Bob, and asks how he ended up in the facility. Bob replies that he was getting blood drawn for a test and that he woke up there. When Walker suggests they throw him back in the room to die, Bob laughs about Walker's previous claim that he's Captain America. Walker pins Bob to the wall, and Yelena separates them before a fight breaks out and tells Bob they have to work together to get out. But he tells her that he's better off staying there. She tells Bob they need to work together to get out, but he insists he's better off staying behind. She gently tells him that everyone feels alone sometimes. He responds, like having a void inside? Bjorn asks how she deals with it. She answers, shove it deep inside, and convinces him to come with them. Mel calls Barnes and tells him how she was in high school when the Avengers were still around, but they're not around anymore. He replies that they could be the one to save everyone and that they can protect her if she testifies against her boss. She asks if he can trace her phone, and when he confirms, she hangs up. In the facility, the group is in a circular space, and Walker attempts to jump out but falls back down, saying it is too far up. They lock their arms together and start the slow process of climbing up the wall. Meanwhile, Mel shows Valentina that Robert was one of the test subjects from the Sentry experiment, and Valentina realizes that if he woke up, the program might be a success. They stop their climb and debate how to get out. Walker lets go first and jumps out, almost making the others plummet. They all manage to pull themselves up. Walker has a flashback from the past and sees himself arguing with his wife about not taking care of their daughter. He comes back to himself and realizes he's standing on the edge. They spot the strike team outside and begin planning their escape, deciding to set off an explosion to draw the team inside. Yelena instructs Walker to wait for her signal. Valentina arrives at the facility and instructs Holt to make the operation non-lethal, stating she has someone inside that she doesn't want to catch any stray bullets. The explosion goes off, and a strike team is ordered to enter inside. Yelena fails to activate the lights as planned. When a soldier advances in the dark, Walker attacks him. As more strike teams enter, Yelena fights them off while Bob clumsily tries to help by shooting at them. Donning the uniforms of the downed soldiers, they leave the facility undetected. They wait for Ghost, who arrives with a vehicle. Bob gets in the back. As the truck is about to leave, they are ordered to identify themselves. Bob jumps out and stands in front of the facility entrance, erratically shooting upwards as a diversion. The soldiers fire at Bob repeatedly, and the group escapes. Then Bob, seemingly unharmed from all the bullets, rises and levitates off the ground, soaring into the clouds before falling back down and causing the ground to shake upon impact. The group's vehicle crashes from the explosion. As they regroup, Yelena shows them the paper she grabbed on the Sentry project from inside the facility. Ghost asks about Taskmaster, and Yelena says she knew her, that she had a hard life, killed a lot of people, and is dead now, just like they all will be someday. They continue walking into the dark. Valentina tells Mel that they're reopening the experiments and instructs her to assemble the scientists. She orders her to have the group eliminated, calling them the last piece of evidence, and to inform her as soon as Bob arrives in New York. The trio walk through the heat when they spot a vehicle in the distance and quickly take cover. Yelena recognizes the figure and tells the others it's no one. A man steps out of the vehicle in full armor, waving his arms wildly and shouting at Yelena not to go into the facility and that she'll burn if she does. Alexei drives them away, launching into a speech about teamwork and christening them the Thunderbolts, after a losing soccer team Yelena played on as a child. Yelena cuts him off, warning that Valentina is hunting them and they can't win. An armored truck pursues them, unleashing heavy fire from behind. Their car struggles to gain speed. Alexei grabs a bottle of vodka, takes a swig, then sets it alight and throws it at the armored truck's windshield. The fire quickly dies out, and they endure another barrage of heavy fire. Ghost tries to counter the attack, but the truck emits a disorienting noise that overwhelms her senses. Yelena leans out of the side of their vehicle, and then suddenly the armored truck explodes, followed by the other two behind it. The group stares in confusion as Bucky rides up on a motorcycle. He manages to seize a gun from the pursuers and shoots out their tires, and does a maneuver that causes the armored truck to flip. The group cheers until Bucky shoots their car, sending them flipping over as well. Gary is surrounded by reporters and states that the committee will have her sent to prison with the evidence they're gathering. Meanwhile, Mel confirms to Valentina that the lab is operational, and they head inside. Mel explains that he was very unstable before the experiment and that most of the test subjects were never meant to be the one, as they all came from difficult pasts. Bob wakes up to Valentina praising how great he is. She recounts everything she knows about his troubled past, and as he grows agitated, the lights in the building flicker. Valentina takes his hand and suddenly experiences a flashback to her childhood, watching her father get shot. Snapping back to the present, she excuses herself and walks over to the table, picking up the Sentry insignia. Just as she's about to leave, Bob stops her, saying, "I can control it." Valentina orders Mel to get the press involved, despite Mel's warnings that Bob is unstable and the experiments may have done something to him. Meanwhile, the group is tied up in a room. Bucky tells them they're all evidence in the impeachment case against Valentina. They insist they no longer work for her and explain what happened. The conversation shifts to Bob, and they tell him he was part of the Sentry program. Bucky remains skeptical until he receives a call from Mel, who tells him Valentina has lost control and won't listen about Bob, who she says is dangerously unstable. Bucky hangs up, unties them, and says they're coming with him to stop Valentina. Yelena protests, saying they're not the people he's looking for, but Bucky tells them the consequences won't disappear unless they make things right. After a moment, the group agrees to the mission. In the building, Valentina waits for Mel outside where she was having her call, sensing her divided loyalty, and tells her that there are only bad guys and worse ones, and to decide if she really wants to change the world. With Valentina's encouragement, Bob focuses and causes a glass of water to boil from a distance, shattering it. She tells him he can do anything, that she's the only one who sees his true potential, and that it is limitless. The group sit in the back of a van discussing their remaining weapons. Alexei asks Bucky what the plan is as he crashes the van through the lobby of the Watchtower building. They start engaging the security guards when Valentina's voice cuts through the chaos, notifying them that the upper floors are unlocked and they are free to proceed. They arrive at Valentina's location, and Bucky tells her that it's over. Bucky asks about Mel's whereabouts, and Valentina replies that she's having some loyalty issues. Bucky advances on Valentina, but freezes, unable to make contact when he raises his hand. She smirks, informing them she's not alone. Bob emerges, transformed, wearing the suit of the Sentry, and greets them. Valentina boasts that he is stronger and faster than all the Avengers combined. She then orders Sentry to kill the team as his first mission. When they refuse to surrender, a fight erupts. The group attempts to harm Sentry, but he appears seemingly invincible and impervious to their attacks and defeats them one by one. None of their weapons are effective. Bucky launches an attack that ends with his metal arm being torn off. The group scrambles into the elevator to escape. Valentina orders Sentry to finish them off, but he refuses, stating that they pose no threat to him. Valentina insists that he needs to listen to her, but Sentry seems confused, questioning why he needs to obey. Outside the building, the team have a big fight after their defeat and feel that they've lost. They split up after deciding there isn't anything they could do. Sentry, questioning his own power, says that if he's a god, why should he listen to her? As she moves to press the kill switch, he slams Valentina against the wall, causing the device to fall to the ground. Mel comes up from behind him unseen while they converse and activates the switch, and they leave the facility. Meanwhile, Alexei chases after Yelena and apologizes for not being there after her sister died. They reconcile, and he tells her she still carries goodness inside her. Suddenly, they notice the crowd pointing upward and look to the sky. The cleanup crew reports that they didn't find a body. Valentina looks up and sees Sentry, now transformed into his dark side, the Void. From above, he turns the helicopter crew firing at him into shadows. The helicopter crashes into a building, sending the city into chaos. On the streets, the group begins rescuing civilians and get an applause, but the Void descends, turning more people into shadows as panic spreads. Yelena walks toward the shadow consuming the street, and the Void speaks, telling her that, as she said, they're all alone. Alexei shouts, trying to stop her, but Yelena steps into the shadows and is immediately pulled into the darkness. She wakes up in a void, surrounded by darkness, and is forced to relive her past traumas one by one. The first memory is of her in the forest when she lures another girl to be shot, and another follows of her assembling weapons as a child. She fights through each painful memory, confronting the past that has haunted her. Back outside, the group discusses why Yelena might have gone into the shadows. Walker shares a flashback he had, trying to piece together what's happening. Meanwhile, Yelena finds Bob sitting alone on the floor of his bedroom. She tells him he needs to stop, but he replies that it isn't him, it's the Void that has taken control. He admits there are days when he feels invincible, and others when nothing seems to matter. As he speaks, Yelena watches him look down at his family fighting and tries to comfort him. She tells him that they'll stick together and that it'll make it better. She convinces him to come with her, and suddenly, the room around them starts to swirl and distort, with objects attacking them at random. A sheet wraps tightly around their necks, strangling them, but Ghost arrives and cuts it free, saving them. The rest of the group rush in to join them. They demand that Bob show them the worst rooms. Meanwhile, the entire city is engulfed in darkness. The group moves through Bob's traumatic past, eventually finding themselves in the room where he was experimented on. There, the Void tells Bob that the worst thing he ever did was think he could be something more. As they prepare to leave, the Void pins them all down. Bob, struggling against the darkness, begins to fight back, beating the Void. But as he does, the darkness threatens to swallow him whole. Yelena manages to free herself and rushes to Bob, pulling him into a tight hug and telling him he's not alone. One by one, the others free themselves and join the embrace, pulling him back from the edge. As the darkness recedes, the group find themselves back on the street. They tell Bob he was great in there, but he looks at them in confusion, appearing as though he has amnesia. Suddenly, they spot Valentina and move to attack, following her into a tent and out into the spotlight in front of a gathering of reporters. Valentina stands before the crowd and announces that she has been working on a secret project, introducing them as the New Avengers. The group exchange bewildered looks as the crowd erupts into applause. Yelena steps closer to Valentina and, with a smug expression, says, "We own you now."